Oh man, we're running here, waiting for Bawana to give us the smoke signal, make sure it's going. We had Carl and I humming some Stanford and Son, enjoying ourselves here
That's
on
right.
this fine Tuesday evening. Actually, a clear day here in Seattle, Carl. So I wanted to go on a hike tomorrow because I wanted to do one on my birthday and didn't get to do one because of the weather. And then tomorrow now looks snowy and cold and blustery, and
Yeah.
I'm sad. The weather in the Pacific Northwest, they keep lying to me.
Have you heard of the weather in Midwest
God,
America?
yeah, I feel like that's maybe a little bit more predictable.
It
I
is,
don't
but
know.
I mean, when your high for the day is -5
Yeah,
and
polar
your
vortex,
low
baby.
is -10, and you're like,
Polar
oh,
vortex.
yeah.
Not for me.
And
Not
we
for
had the
me.
heaters in the church go out, so that was
Oh
fun.
God.
All right, I think we're all good. We got all the check marks. So welcome into Building the Broncos. I am your host, Carl Dumler, and of course, I have with me Mr. Nick Kendell. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well. Natalie, my wife, got me a light for doing the podcast. So my face is a little bit more illuminated. So that's always good. You guys can see if I'm broken out in, my skincare products. We're not going to go down that list or that road today, but maybe a little bit. But no, it's I'm doing pretty well. Excited to be back on Tuesday. Obviously took Saturday off for my birthday, turning 29. And I guess you turn 29 every year after that, but excited to be back here for Building the Broncos and, Tuesday, one of my favorite days of the week.
Yep. Yeah, I will tell you, 30 hit me like a ton of bricks.
Oh God.
So good luck to that.
How old were you when you had your daughter?
I was 29.
Okay, well there you go. That's probably what happened.
Yeah,
fatherhood.
It did, because I mean that was that point where I'm a dad. I have a full-time job. Their college buddies are kind of. I mean, I talk to them, but it's not like every day they're my roommates or anything like that. I got my wife, my kid, my job, my house to take care of. It's all adulthood at 30.
And that's why I sucked you back in here, Carl. You got to have a little bit of fun. You
It's
got to
true.
unwind a little bit and talk some football, right?
Yes, exactly. You guys keep me young, so I appreciate that. I feel like an old man.
Some of you guys
right
make
now.
me old.
That's true. Giving me gray hair here.
Oh, I know. Well, we got Dylan Von Arks in the house. Got a lot of comments in here. I mean, we got already 100 people, according to us, and only one thumbs up. So 100 people in here. If 10 of you hit thumbs up, we're already on a good start here. So I'll give Carl the runway here to get us off the ground with the intro. Now that we've kind of just been diddling around for 3 minutes now, but Building the Broncos Tuesday night. Welcome in, everybody. We'd love to see you.
Right. But before we get to all of our football content today, and we got some good talking points today, we want to let you know that we must say hello to our presenting sponsors of today's show, Manscaped. Listen up, fellas. 2020, well, it kind of sucked, but it's 2021 now, which means it's time to embrace the new year, new me mindset. And the best way to start cultivating that is with Manscaped. Manscaped is the best in men's below the waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels and helping 2 million men around the world keep their male grooming on point. If you let yourself go in 2020 while in quarantine, Manscaped is here for you to reboot and stay clean and shaved in 2021.
Yeah, man, they have some great products. Honestly, the one that I've used the most so far, because I always seem to be losing my nail clippers, but they have this awesome travel kit for just nail and clippings and everything. And it's got a magnet on it too, which, I mean, magnets, how do they work? It's crazy science, right? But I absolutely love this. Also, they sent me another thing of, I had to get another one because I already used them up, the crop mops for the, down south, cleaning up that area. They have active pH control, which again, guys, #science. You want to be about that down south. So, like I said, didn't get to go on a hike this weekend. It's supposed to be cold, but you bet once things start clearing up and getting a little bit nicer, and you outdoors people, actually one of my best friends actually just sent me a pack rod. So I'm going to be spending a lot of times outdoors in the summer. Once the draft season's kind of over, I'm taking my crop mops with me. No doubt about it. So I'm really excited about it. And you can get, obviously, other products. They obviously have the shavers as well, and excellent cologne. I love the refined cologne as well. It smells really good. My wife got me some cologne also, and she's like, your refined cologne might smell a little better. So shout out to Manscaped. They have a lot of good products. It's not just the shaver.
Right. Well, make sure also then that you are getting the 20% off free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. Your family jewels will thank you.
Yeah, guys, again, get 20% off and free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use code HUDDLE. Happy New Year. Happy Valentine's Day, guys. And Happy New Year and Happy Valentine's Day to your boys as well.
And also make sure that you're following us on Twitter. You can find me at Carl Dumler, MHH, and Nick at Nick Kendell, MHH. And of course, John at John K, MHH, always doing a great job behind the scenes for us. And make sure that you're heading on over to milehighhuddle.com, where we are going to have the best offseason content around. We're going to be talking free agency, restricted free agents. We're going to be talking quarterbacks, obviously, like we are today. We're going to be talking draft like crazy. You know how much we love the draft. So make sure you head on over there. You're not going to want to miss it, as it is part of the Sports Illustrated and Sports Nation. Just make sure you head on over there, and make sure you also click that like and thumbs up, like Nick said earlier. Head on over to YouTube, leave us a comment, like, share, subscribe, whatever you can do. That always helps us more than anything else. If you want to go to iTunes, leave a comment. We will read it here live on the show. Again, we just appreciate all of you joining us here today. And so now let's get into our main topic today. Mr. Nick, I'm going to pass this over to you because you wrote the article. And PFF, I don't know, once every 2 weeks releases a mock draft right now, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, they just rotate between their writers. But this one was interesting because it was Pro Football Focus's lead draft analyst in Mike Renner, and they also have a good show called 2-for-1 Drafts, which, I mean, hello, Nick, hashtag Nick's Beer Fund. If you have a draft podcast that also references consuming adult beverages, I'm in. But, 2-for-1's draft, they kind of talked about it as well. But they had the Broncos, very interestingly, trading up to number 7 overall, exchanging picks with the Detroit Lions. I didn't say exactly what the Broncos gave up, but it probably wouldn't have been that much. Maybe a 3rd round pick, maybe something like a 3rd and a 2022 4th, moving up just 9 to 7 is not a lot. But interestingly enough, they had the Broncos selecting quarterback from North Dakota State, the Bison, Trey Lance, the 20-year-old quarterback who only played 1 game this year and really only 1 year of college football at, where is North Dakota State? I don't even know what city it's in. Is it Bismarck? I don't. Somebody get in the chat. I know somebody in the comments knows that. But here's what Mike Renner had to say of drafting Trey Lance for the Broncos at 7 overall. He said this isn't necessarily giving up on Drew Lock. It's admitting he hasn't been good enough so far. Lance isn't necessarily the guy you want to start year 1, but he's got ample tools required to open up the Denver Broncos offense. So that's kind of the kicker there. Obviously, I want to get in a little bit more to the conversation between Mike Renner and Austin Gale. I thought that's going to be an interesting one to parse out as well. But your initial thoughts on the Broncos not only taking a quarterback, the 4th quarterback off the board here in Trey Lance in this mock draft, but moving up from 9 to 7.
Well, I wanted to get shout out to Levi Hope here real quick before I get to my thoughts. Levi, thank you for the super chat. Hey, fellas, always great work. Levi, hey, always looking good in that shirt.
Exactly. Good shirt.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And I saw we got Mohammed coming in here as usual. Always appreciate that. Again, looking good in the swag. Make sure you guys are heading over, checking out all of our great things. We got the hats on today, both of us. Welcome back, Nick. Hello, Carl. Why, hello.
Thanks, Mohammed. And also, if you're calling Zach the Drogon or the Dragon of Mile High Huddle, I need my own Game of Thrones name. That's on you, Mohammed, but I'm in. I love that show. So go ahead.
We found out it's in Fargo.
North Dakota there we go.
So, the most popular. Yeah. But anyway, my thoughts on it. I mean, I think even the biggest Lock supporters have to admit that what he showed last year is not enough to secure that he is for sure the starter heading into 2021 or 2022. It's kind of funny. I saw somebody earlier today make a comment. They said the Broncos shouldn't trade for Carson Wentz because he just had a trash season. Why would we trade for a trash quarterback or a quarterback that just had a trash season for a quarterback that just had a promising season? And I'm going, wait, no, they pretty much had the same season. One got benched, and you can't call one trash and the other a treasure. They're both right there the same.
Bottom 5 quarterback this year.
Yeah, so it was not a promising season. Did he have some promising moments? We can say yes to that because there were some nice throws throughout the year. But there's a lot of quarterbacks you could say the exact same thing. Sam Darnold, that's maybe getting kicked out of New York. He had some promising throws throughout his career. Jameis
Winston. Too many lows.
Yeah.
You're talking there. That's the guy. too many lows. You can't turn the ball over like that and keep your job. I mean, just point blank. You see Tom Brady come in, and obviously Tom Brady probably solidifies himself as the GOAT after going to the Super Bowl after 1 year in the NFC. It hurt to cheer for him, but you bet I was this past Sunday. Although you can still make an argument for Peyton Manning. I wouldn't stop you there.
I'd say on this comment, except one was on the rise while the other was benched. Well, I think if the Broncos had a decent quarterback, a young quarterback on the bench that they wanted to see what they had, I'm not sure that Drew Lock continues throughout that season with how he played early on. I don't know. Yes, there are some differences obviously between Carson Wentz and Drew Lock, but I'm just trying to say that they're right. They're at PFF. He did not have a good enough season to say that he is for sure the starter moving forward. The Broncos need to do something to kind of figure out to hedge their bets, whether that's getting a veteran quarterback that maybe can come in, or if it's what they just did here in this mock draft of getting Trey Lance.
Yeah.
Trading up and getting him, giving him a year to sit behind. Okay, so Drew Lock develops. Maybe he does turn into something. Well, then you got this great trade piece to move down. We're seeing quarterbacks get traded for ridiculous.
I was going to say, man, if you imagine if Drew Lock turns out to be, 20th to 15th best quarterback annually, that's a first round pick. You're getting back a first round pick at that, especially at his age. So we're getting to the point also with Drew Lock, which is something that we need to start kind of framing this discussion around of it's almost pay time, and you can argue, Drew Lock, the quarterback or not. I don't think you can argue that he's shown enough to deserve to get paid. Now, granted, we're talking 1 to 2 years down the line, but still that's coming down the tracks quickly. And if you go get a young quarterback, you reset that clock from 2 years to 5 years. So it is interesting. It's something that we're going to talk about obviously a lot, but I'm more curious, Carl, and we'll get into this conversation a little bit and obviously get into the comment section as well, as Buana's rocking that for us right now. Your specific thoughts on Trey Lance himself, not just the Broncos quarterback situation, Drew Lock, the merits of that, but Trey Lance as the fourth quarterback off the board here and one to the Broncos, which I really like Lance's tools. I think he's got the best combination of athleticism and arm talent in this class. Doesn't mean that it's going to all come together. I mean, Jamarcus Russell had incredible tools, and he's the biggest bust ever. Right. But still, the raw tools are incredible. A lot of people rave about his character. I guess my reservations are he is a guy who probably needs a year. He needs a redshirt season, so to speak. And can you get that with Drew Lock playing erratic football? That's my biggest reservation with Trey Lance. If the Broncos can go in, bring Mariota or somebody who's much more stabilizing, and you can put Trey Lance in bubble or on ice for a year, I'm in. 100%. I love Lance. But the fact that he might have to go in year one scares me.
So here's my hesitation.
Okay.
Is more with the questions at the coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
They have 1 year to prove that they can do something. Well, you go get a first round quarterback, you're kind of saying, I'm not caring about what you really do this year. I'm playing for what's going to be the next coaching staff who's going to be with Trey Lance. Maybe I go get a Brian Dabble to come work with him because he has some similar skill sets to what you see with Josh Allen. And that's my bigger thing of what are you saying to the coaching staff when you go draft a Trey Lance?
Well, this is a great transition here because Austin Gale and Mike Renner talked about this very thing with the Broncos selecting Trey Lance, moving up for him. And Gale said, quote here, if the Broncos do go with the strategy, which is trading up for Trey Lance, I hope the front office lets him know and Vic Fangio lets them know I am not on the hot seat if you want me to start Drew Lock next year. Some people have asked me about Fangio, why hasn't he been fired? And I'm like, are you serious? This guy should not be on the hot seat. He's working with bad parts. This quarterback has not played well at all. Rather, Drew Lock is on the hot seat. There are people who want Vic Fangio out of Denver more than they want Drew Lock out of Denver, and I just can't get on board with that. I can't. Renner then goes on to say, yeah, they lost their best defensive player, and they still had one of the better defenses this year. Gale responded, they had absolute shambles in the secondary, especially cornerback, and they still were one of the more productive units this year. And then Gale goes on, if Denver lets Fangio get out, I would be absolutely floored. Like they let Drew Lock tank them into 3 or 4 wins next year, and then they move on from Fangio. I would hate to see that. He's one of the best defensive minds in football. I would really hate to see that. Yeah. So, I mean, that just kind of lays it out there. Like you make a good point. If the Broncos do go get a guy like Trey Lance, you probably need to have a conversation with Vic Fangio that, like, you know what, we punted our first round pick this year, essentially, because we're waiting for 2022, maybe halfway through 2022 to see what happens. The results this year, we need to see positive direction. But if Drew Lock is the reason honestly, when you have a bottom 5 quarterback, I'm comfortable saying the main reason that your team struggled this year, then they would give Vic Fangio, I guess, a little bit more leeway. And I don't know if that's feasible right now.
Right. So that's where I draw a little bit of a line there with Trey Lance. I love the player. I really do. I saw Sports Illustrated put out an article earlier. It was essentially they had about 4 different columns. One of them was value of the player now, possible value of the player moving forward. It was 2 of the main columns on there. Trey Lance was number 2 on that list behind, of course, Trevor Lawrence. So like Trevor Lawrence, of course, his value right now is really high. I think it was like a 9.0, and his value moving forward was a 9.6. Trey Lance was like an 8.0 right now and a 9.4 moving forward. So that just shows you the tools right there. When you see him, they pop on screen. The guy, I mean, he's athletic, really athletic. Yeah. He rushed for 1,000 yards his first year in college football, while also having a great arm. I will say some accuracy issues really concern me.
I think it stems from his footwork, though.
It does. I think there's some things that you can work on. And I mean, we're saying the same thing about Drew Lock too.
Drew Lock had 50 starts in college in the SEC, where Trey Lance played 12 games at FCS level.
Right.
It's not a 1-for-1.
It's not. But I'm just saying that there's obviously some concerns there of just, is he going to grow? Is he not? I mean, you could say the same with Josh Allen. Is he going to grow? Is he not? Patrick Mahomes. Is he going to grow or is he not?
Yeah.
There were some things there in his college tape that you're like, what's he going to be? He could be a star or he could be nothing. And so that's the risk you take. But I think you've said this probably more than anybody, that we've seen over the last 5 years, the quarterbacks that are having success, especially early on in their career, are guys who are athletic, who have tools that can come into the league and do some special things beyond just being a quarterback in the pocket.
You got to play in today's NFL. I equate it to basketball. The era of the pass first point guard is over. I need my guy to shoot. I need my guy to get in the paint. He can't just be a distributor. He has to be a playmaker. And that's just kind of where the young quarterbacks are going. Obviously, Tom Brady just won, but how many quarterbacks get that level of experience, were able to come of age when the offensive line play was better and the games were much more of, matriculate the ball down the field. Now it's about getting outside the pocket, doing stuff beyond the X's and O's, pushing the ball vertically, creating explosive pass plays. So, it's tough. And we got to get the base case here. Drafting Lance is a win-win. If Locke takes a quantum leap, Lance is an attractive trade chip. If Locke fails, we can start rebuilding right away. I mean, that's a good thing. It's just the thing for me, and something I think Peyton would probably actually agree with, is that I'm not getting Lance unless I even have the hedge beforehand. Getting Andy Dalton first and then getting Lance. Now we're talking about the territory there where obviously, some people will say if you have more than one quarterback in the room, you don't have any. I'm not of that belief. I think it's such a valuable position. I'm totally fine at throwing resources at it until you get it right. Especially with how this Broncos team is constructed right now. I mean, the offense is ready to take off. How far they can go depends on the quarterback. Yep. So, I mean, personnel-wise, at least. I do also, coming back to the Lance conversation here, and Jay, also, shout out to Bowana for laying this one up. I'm scared of Lance being with his coaching staff. It's not the defensive side of the football. It's Pat Shurmur. I don't think Pat Shurmur is a bad offensive coordinator, but I think he is very much of that 90s, early 2000s style offense where he wants a pocket guy that can deliver the ball quickly and accurately, not so vertically, but rather, make the quick read, get the ball in space to your playmakers, especially with the type of receivers they drafted in Judy and Hamler. Those are get open quick kind of guys, not the above the rim, general catch radius kind of guys that you see with more of those erratic accuracy kind of quarterbacks, which is not Drew Lock too, but still, I think the fit between Lance and Shurmur might be my biggest holdup.
Yeah. That's why I've had some people make the comment that Zach Wilson is not a good fit with Pat Shurmur. And I'm like, what in the world? He's like the perfect fit. He gets the ball out of his hands quickly. He can be creative. He wants to get it to his playmakers and let them go make plays. That's all we saw at BYU this year. Yeah, he threw some balls down the field, which, I mean, that's part of the Shurmur system as well. But you're right. Those quick accuracy throws, I'm not sure if that's exactly Trey Lance's game. There's a lot of the play action, big throws down the field when the play action is there, a lot of designed runs to kind of keep a defense honest that you can hit them behind the linebackers at times. A lot of those. Now, this is the part that he does fit Shermer's system well. He does well with those out throws.
Yes, well,
that is something with his big arm. He can hit those pretty well. That's one area where I thought Locke would be better at, just because he has a pretty good arm, but he's just not very good with the timing on those throws. That's why they have to attack the middle of the field with him compared to the out part. Where Trey Lance, I think he showed a lot more where he did better outside the hashes than sometimes inside.
And the big thing with Trey Lance, too, is he didn't throw a single interception in the normalized season of 2019. So while he does have there are some, I guess, similarities between Locke and Lance as far as the general accuracy throwers. Lance protects the football. Locke, I don't know if he can still be an effective quarterback pushing the ball vertically while also protecting the football. We haven't seen it. And that historically, when guys go uber conservative, the ones that have been turning the ball over at the rate that Locke has, they lose a lot of their effectiveness. So it's a concern. I mean, it's really concerning. I do want to get to a little bit more of this conversation with Mike and Gail here. He said that the Broncos decision makers, Gail are confident in Locke still, but they want to bring in a veteran to compete. They've also heard that Gardner Minshew is a name, which they think is absurd. And I agree with them. I think Gardner Minshew doesn't make any sense to me. Carl, explain Gardner Minshew to me like I'm 5. Is it just the swagger and stuff? Because I get that, but like, he's not a good quarterback. He's a backup. I mean, I know he has cool, wears jorts and has the minivan and whatnot, but like, you're talking about a guy that played for a 1-15 team this season and is one of the lowest yards per attempt in football. Not really a great athlete. I mean, if you're looking for somebody who can, a classic point guard, sure, but everybody's like, oh, we got to get Gardner Minshew. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I think he's kind of in that Drew Lock conversation. If he has those few wow moments that make you kind of go, oh, maybe if he just gets with the right situation, the right coaches, he could turn into something. And I'd say he's less of a chance than Drew Lock of turning into that.
Yeah, at least Locke has like good athleticism and tools. Like, I think you obviously have a good floor with Minshew, and he'd be a great backup. But am I giving up a 3rd round pick to bring in a backup when you don't have the starter set? I don't get it.
He's better. I will say he's better at protecting the football than Locke.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's the one area that there's a really big difference between the two. When you're looking at why he might fit better with what the Broncos want to do in this upcoming season. Just because it kind of does favor, we want to play good defense and just not mess it up on offense. Well, they messed it up a lot on the offense this year. Yeah,
that's very true. Anyway, Renner continues on this conversation. He thinks that Trey Lance makes a lot of sense for the Broncos. He has a cannon for an arm, but he's not a year 1 guy. And coming into Denver, Drew Lock can then get a shot in 2021, and you get to see what he has and what many Bronco fans, or as he corrects himself, or some Bronco fans are holding out hope that Lock can be the guy, despite ample evidence mounting that he cannot. And that's fine. Lance gets to sit on the bench for a year and see what not to do, and he gets to see, hey, this is how I don't play the game of football. And then he comes in year 2 and Lance balls. So obviously Mike Renner and a lot of those pro football guys, this is not a direct quote from me, guys. Don't think I'm sitting here absolutely pooping on Locke, because I still think Locke has a chance to be a franchise caliber quarterback. I really do. It's just, I don't think the path there is super likely, but I'm not all saying, pooping on him like Mike was in this interview. So what did you think about Mike's take there? I mean, really pulls no punches. He is not a fan.
Yeah, I know people label us Locke haters.
PFF Drew doubters.
Yeah, that's a better way to say it, really. PFF essentially they want to shoot Locke's family into the sun. Is how much they dislike him, and they've disliked him since his college days.
Yeah, so, I mean, don't let them forget that they were like, "Oh, Will Greer's 10 times better quarterback than Drew Lock."
Yeah, that's not true.
So,
yeah. So take what they say with that grain of salt, kind of thing. Yeah. This is kind of hedging your bets in a different direction. I know some people have gone the better. I agree with you. I think maybe the best course of action is kind of do the 3 hedge, where you give Locke his chance. Like I said, go get an Andy Dalton, and if Trey Lance falls to you at 9, it's worth a risk at that point.
Shoot, baby.
Yeah. If he fails, he fails. But at least you gave it a chance to really fix the quarterback position. So we'll kind of see. I don't know. I'm not of the top 4 quarterbacks. I'd say Trey Lance is the one guy I don't want to trade up for. I don't want to put more, eggs in the basket towards one player if it's Trey Lance because he has the highest bust potential of the top 4 guys. But the other 3, I'm willing to trade up a little bit more just because I think their floor is a lot higher and what they can bring to the table, and because of their ability to possibly start year 1 compared to Trey Lance. But I do bank a lot more on his upside because I have read so many things of the work ethic, the character of the player, and just
the intelligence that people rave about his intelligence.
Yeah. So I think there are some big differences in what he brings to the table than a lot of people are giving him credit for. So
and we're talking about a guy who's playing his 19 or 18-year season in 2019. He was 18 years old, and he was mostly recruited to play safety. North Dakota State was the one school that gave him a chance to play quarterback. He put on 40 pounds, I think, over the year and got much more muscular. And I mean, it's easy to see the tools. I'm not going to go out of my way like some of the NFL talking heads and compliment him. Gil Brandt's compared him to Steve McNair. Daniel Jeremiah compared him to Andrew Luck. As far as the tools go, that doesn't mean he's going to be that good of a quarterback, but just kind of the frame, the athleticism, and the arm talent. Those are the guys that they compared him to, which, my God, talk about that's up here. I think actually probably I would compare him to Colin Kaepernick as a player. I know that's a we'll not go down that road, folks. But I think that's where you're going to go. I want to get to Stanley Michael Crawford's comment here real quick. And Stanley looking snazzy in that suit there, although you're a little tilted there. Here, let's do that. Let's read it that way. Locke will have a great season if they have a full training camp in preseason. Locke will be much better. You watch. I hope Locke's much better because he was a bottom 5 quarterback last season. And I do like there's up plays, but you can't turn the ball over and put the ball in harm's way as much as Locke did. I mean, he led the league, and if he didn't lead the league in turnovers, he was darn close. And he had a good amount of dropped interceptions as well. He put the ball in harm's way a lot. And you don't have the margin for error with, like a team like Kansas City where you're putting up 40 points a game where you can turn the ball over like that. You cannot turn the ball over like that and win. Denver, it's just not in the formula. So we'll see. Coming back to that first point, if they have a full training camp in preseason, I can tell you guys, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I obviously can't predict the future. That's something we've been made idiots of time and time again. And I'm just talking from a worldwide perspective in regards to what's going on with the world. But OTAs may never be the same again.
Right.
And to have preseason at all and what it's going to look like training camp, it's not going to be normal. So, if you want to let that be an excuse for Locke next year at this time, then fine. But I mean, that's where we're at. You have every single team has to deal with it too. So it's not like it's just the Broncos, but that's just where we are as a reality right now.
Right. All right. Well, let's get to Stu Meats.
Muhammad
Nick,
coming in first.
John Snow. Do you approve?
Am I that pouty?
I don't know.
I don't want to be king. See, Braun was my favorite character. I'll follow the money and just go wherever the wind goes. And if I can, marry some dame that has a nice castle, I'm in. But appreciate that, Muhammad. We like that a lot. I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah.
Although I don't want to be stabbed in the chest multiple times by all the guys here. We got Stu Meat coming in. I see Nick Kendall, the GOAT. Spell my name wrong, but that's okay. But we just had Stu coming in. Really do appreciate it. Oh, here's another one. Levi. I don't know what's going on here, Buwana.
He was trying to get the sticker with the 100 for Stu Meat. So appreciate Stu. That, Stu.
Really appreciate you.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get. Oh man, we got a lot of super chats coming in. Let's get to these here.
I'm going to pull up this one right here from Michael Crivanis. Speaking of criers, Jon Snow, but Michael coming in here. Thank you very much, Michael. I haven't seen you before, but you commented a few times, so we really do appreciate that. Every Tuesday night, just make sure you come back. We'll keep talking football. Shermer blows. He's stuck in his ways. Smart coaches adjust their schemes to fit their players' strengths. Fant should have been featured so much more. Carl, I'll let you take this one away. I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Okay. I would say beginning of the season, Shermer and Locke were not on the same page. Now, some of that was Locke being injured, so they didn't really get that time right there at the beginning. So Shermer, yes, he tried to have his scheme work with Locke, trying to see if those two could mesh well. It was not going well. Second half of the season, you saw a lot of changes. Shermer loves to run 3 wide sets, 4 wide sets. He wants to really spread out a team, and he wants to attack the edges he likes those out routes and then come back with the slants across the middle, the in routes, and then every once in a while do the double moves deep. That's what his scheme is really about. But Locke was really struggling with the timing of those out routes, and it just was not working. Locke did not feel comfortable with it, and so Shurmur changed up the offense. You saw them go to the 2 tight end sets a lot over the second half of the season, attack the middle of the field, have the wide receivers attacking the middle of the field. There just wasn't a lot of things outside the hashes because that's not Locke's game. So I would say
that's the reason that we saw such a discrepancy in Locke's non-play action versus play action snaps, because I think his quarterback rating was about 120 for play action snaps, which is about league average. Obviously pretty good, but about league average, which God, I would take for a rookie contract if Drew Lock was league average right now. We would not be having these conversations. But when Drew Lock was without play action, he had the worst rating in football. I think it was 63. And that was so much, like, that was the worst in football by such a rate that the second worst was 73. And most of the people were like within 70, 73 to 95. Drew Lock was a 63 without play action. I mean, just dreadful. And that limits you can't do shotgun, what Shurmur wants to run. And also, I think that's also relates to the middle of the field window versus the hash marks. I mean, play action, cornerbacks don't really bite on play action, despite what Madden would have you do sometimes. It's about drawing in the linebackers and the safeties and opening up the windows in the middle of the field. So I think that's probably the biggest reason that you saw just such a discrepancy between play action and non-play action for Drew Lock. But I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that as well.
No, you're right. You're exactly right. Play action is more about attacking the middle of the field, trying to get, like I said, get those linebackers to suck up, because a lot of times cornerbacks, whether it's a run play or not, their job is to stay with their guy. Yeah. Unless they're in zone coverage. And even there, they're supposed to stay in their zone until they see that it's absolutely a run play. Yep. That's their responsibility. Same with safeties. So play action is all about the linebackers and
safeties. Manipulating the box.
Maybe a little safeties too, but yeah. But so I understand there's a big difference there. And I'd say also play action, a lot of the plays, it seemed like they were doing the moving pocket. So he would roll out to his right. And so then you're giving him a half field read as well.
Yeah.
So there's some of that plays into it. But
the thing that's most scary for me about that stat, just a little side here, one of the most predictive stats year to year for quarterback play is their passer rating without play action. Play action stats can fluctuate wildly, but year to year, how a quarterback rates outside of play action, those type of throws, is how they tend to play their career in year to year. Now, that's not always true. Josh Allen took a monumental leap this year. Josh Allen's such a weird outlier for all these stats. It doesn't make any sense. But that's another thing. It's like, oh man, it would be ideal if Drew Lock was the guy. Yeah. God, how great would it be if, the Broncos can trade back and really load up a team and maybe get some salary down and really fill out this roster and be aggressive in free agency like next year, or who knows? But like, that's not where we're at with this team.
Right. So, and it's so hard because he does have some wow plays.
Yes.
That you're just like, that was a great throw into a tight window. Great job.
Yeah. And there were plays too where he's like horrible footwork. Like there was a play, I think it was Sayer Beginger, friend of the show, both of our friends, and he posted a great throw. It was the Alberto Cuebanam drop in the New England game on the right side of the end zone. Mm-hmm. And Drew Lock threw it, absolute dime. Both his feet left the ground at one point. No reason. He hopped into falling backwards and he threw a dime. But like when you're doing that, when your process is that poor, especially in the base, you're going to be erratic. You're just not going to have accuracy. You're going to miss timing. You're not going to have your route, the route stems, squared up with your drop back. I mean, it's just things like that. You see the wild plays, but it's like, God, get it together. It's the same thing we've seen in college, the same thing we've seen the first 2 years now. It's just, it can get better, but it's not. It hasn't been.
All right. Well, let's. All right. Like I said, just kind of breaking it down. I would say yes. There are things that Shurmur could have done better for Drew Lock to make things a lot easier for the entire offense. But there were a lot of plays to be had that were missed. Just because a play doesn't work doesn't mean that it wasn't the right play call. And then there's other times where a play works and it was a terrible play call. So you got to look at the entire process. That's why just looking at the end result doesn't mean that you actually saw what happened. Yeah. So just pay attention to those kind of things. We'll be working on breaking some of that down, helping you to dissect it a little bit more as we go through this offseason. We get a little more time to kind of get into those nitty-gritty details that we love.
The nerds.
Yeah, the nerds.
Big nerds. Okay, I Am Supreme coming in here. Thank you very much, I Am Supreme. We appreciate that. Watching over on YouTube. Get Watson, high price and all. Let Fangio and Peyton find defensive gems in late rounds. Trust the scouting. Fangio can't fix quarterback. He can fix the defense. That's something that I think people underrate. I mean, obviously the Broncos had one of the higher priced defenses this year, but the amount of cap dollars they had on IR that missed time, and it doesn't make sense how the Broncos defense was able to be held together given the incredible loss at cornerback. Outside of, I don't know, would you rather be down to a third string rookie and an undrafted free agent guy you just picked up 2 weeks prior at cornerback or edge rusher? I feel like edge rusher, you'll be hurt because you won't be able to get that pressure, but lack of cornerbacks, that's how you get killed.
Yeah.
That's how you get absolutely killed.
There's other ways to simulate pressure up front. Cornerbacks, you're very limited on what you can do to really cover up their issues because they're left out in some pretty big spaces. Even if you go to zone coverage, they're left in some pretty big spaces, and you can really still attack those zones. I would say what Fangio did this last year, I think, is very underappreciated by a lot of people. I mean, a great example, Patrick Mahomes, 2 of his 5 worst games this last year, according EPA, were against the Broncos. And
man, you're talking about he's making a 5-course gourmet meal with bologna, Kraft singles, and just slightly expired mayonnaise. You know, it was he's cooking out there. Ingredients not up to par. Does he need up to par ingredients? I mean, the biggest thing is the offense and the quarterback position, because we saw it. I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, defenses win champions again. We're here. The book of what the Buccaneers did." Did you see who they had at quarterback? Did you see the offensive line? Did you see the weapons? Obviously the defense won that game, but also the Chiefs' offensive line lost that game. That's, I think, an important factor that people need to comment on as well. But in order to get a ticket to the dance, you got to be able to score points. I mean, are the Buccaneers able to hold the Chiefs to no touchdowns if they weren't able to get that lead early on and really control the pace of the game? And the Chiefs were moving the football. They got into the 34 times, 3 to 5 times.
Yeah.
I think they had to score touchdowns because the Buccaneers offense was scoring touchdowns. So
And I'd say, I think if I remember right, the top 4 DVOA passing offenses in the NFL were the top 4 teams left in the AFC and NFC championship.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking. Wow.
So
who could have seen that?
I do think that there is an argument that you have to build an entire team, because we just saw that with the Bucs compared to the Chiefs. But if you don't have the quarterback, you stand 0 chance.
Unless you have an all-time, once in an organizational lifetimes defense like the Broncos had in 2015. But granted, that 2015 defense doesn't even exist unless you have that elite quarterback that lures those guys there to begin with. So it's it all comes back to the god darn quarterback. So Michael coming in here.
Yes.
Sorry.
I would say,
go ahead.
I just want to say, yes, if you stand a chance of going and getting a guy like Watson, I don't think he is so underappreciated because of this last season, and because everybody pays attention to what Patrick Mahomes does and says he does all these magical things. Watson does a lot of that same stuff, and he's a better runner. So it would be, I mean, he's a top 5 quarterback, possibly top 3 in the NFL, especially if you get him on a competent organization like the Broncos and some of the pieces that they have on offense. You got a great offensive line that's really building to something special moving here into this next year with Munchak having his 3rd year. You got a strong running game. You got weapons galore that he could work with. The Broncos would have a top 5 offense. I really have no doubt with Watson at the helm. And that can cover up a lot of other issues. The defense, I mean, I said this about the Chiefs. I think they're overrated. Their defense is overrated in the sense that they were I think they finished 12th in points allowed per game.
Yeah.
That was helped by the offense putting up so many points where teams got so far behind, they became one-dimensional.
Yeah.
So offense can really help defense a lot.
It can. And I mean, it still takes a team. The Buccaneers showed that in the Super Bowl, but also Deshaun Watson this season showed it. Here's some factoids about Deshaun Watson this year that absolutely blew my mind. So Deshaun Watson this year had 7 games where he threw at least 10 passes and had a passer rating of 110 points, or a passer rating of 110, and lost. 7 games this year. Tom Brady has had 3 games like that in his entire career. Watson this year had 10 career losses with a 110 plus passer rating, which already ranks second all time behind Breeze, which is crazy considering, gosh, what is this year? Year 4? Watson only has 25 career losses, which means 40% of his losses he's had a passer rating of 110 or better. That's, oh my, what? Watson averaged 8.2 adjusted net yards per attempt, which is 29th best since 1960 of the 36 seasons with 8+ ANY over A, which the air yards. Watson is 250% winning percentage. Isn't just the worst, it's the second worst all time. And he also has the 7th most passing yards and 3rd most rushing yards of anyone in the group since 1960. So, hello. Deshaun Watson's very good at quarterback. It's still a team game, but if you have a quarterback that good at 25 years old,
right,
you have a chance. So Michael coming in again. He also said Nick was the GOAT. I appreciate that. That's why I like you, Michael. He also said I comment on Nick's tweets daily. I tweet a lot, so that's great. I'm very interactive on there with you guys. You come at me, we will talk. And he says he's not new. Michael, we appreciate that.
All right, Levi.
I meant to click it off on him. My hands are off the wheel. There we go.
Levi Hope coming in here with another super chat. Appreciate it. It's tough to imagine what Peyton will do when we haven't seen any picks from the guy yet or where his mind might be at. Do you think Peyton wants a quarterback? Well, let me start off. It's been interesting seeing the difference already from John Elway to Peyton. Usually, especially after the Senior Bowl, we get a lot of little tidbits of information coming into us, especially about the draft, of guys the Broncos really like, getting some information on some of their big boards of how it's starting to shape out. We've gotten zero. He has really clamped down on the information that's leaking out of that franchise right now. And the only thing that we have seen it's pretty obvious. Yes, he's looking at quarterback. I think he's watched Drew Lock and has seen what most everybody else has seen, that Drew Lock had some promising moments, but he also really, really struggled. And can you feel comfortable going into 2021 with Drew Lock at the helm? Right now, I think he is looking at an upgrade. If he can find one, he'll go get it. But he's also not going to go out there and overpay for it either. So that's he's being smart about it. But I do think that if he's got an opportunity, he's going to take it.
I mean, it depends, I guess, on who you ask, but it sounded like they were very much interested in Matt Stafford, and they've kicked the tires elsewhere. So, does Peyton want a quarterback? I think he realizes that if you don't have a quarterback in this league and you don't have just an incredible dose of luck and an all-time unit somewhere on there, you're sunk. You're paddling in a boat with one oar. It's right. You're going in circles. Right. So especially in the AFC West, So I think he will vet the quarterbacks. But I do also think, and maybe this is just me being optimistic about Drew Lock and whatnot, but I do also think that Peyton believes that the Broncos aren't dead in the water, so to speak, if they roll with Drew Lock this year. Because Drew Lock still he's one of the cheapest quarterbacks in football, 25 years old, and he's a solid athlete with a good arm. Now, there's a lot of deficiencies, but there are worse things to bet on than that quarterback. And he's not a huge investment also. So if let's say they roll with Drew Lock this year, doesn't work out, it's not like you're stuck in cap hell with like Carson Wentz or whatnot. That's not the situation. So it's very flexible, and they could go many different ways. And I think that's a big benefit for Lock and the Broncos going forward.
Right. I said to somebody earlier, not on this show, but I was talking with somebody, that the Broncos actually might be in one of the better situations with Deshaun Watson, because there is a lot of chatter out there that the Texans will not trade him before the draft. That if he gets traded, it will be after the draft. And you're going to see a lot of teams who are going to make desperate decisions because they're going to be like, this is maybe our last chance to get our guy. So you're going to see like the Jets at number 2. Can they pass on getting a Zach Wilson, a Justin Fields, if they don't know for sure that they're going to get Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, all these teams that have those picks higher than the Broncos that are the odds-on favorites for Watson, they lose a lot of value as soon as the draft happens. Because the Broncos, obviously, they have 9 right now, which has good value, but you're talking about the Jets and the Dolphins specifically that not only have 2 and 3 this year, but an extra first-round pick in 2020. And if Watson is traded post-draft, I think the Broncos' chances move up dramatically.
Yep. And so that's why not having to be desperate because they do have Lock is huge. So Yeah, we'll see how that all plays out. But Mark Langley coming in here. How's it going,
Mark.
guys?
Going well.
Going well, yeah. Reisner outlook on Locke was very positive and factual in his recent statement. Hashtag Dalton, hashtag Locke leadership. Yeah, I think there's still a lot of players in that locker room that really do like Locke. I think he's a likable guy. He's got he's got a big personality. He's fun. He's dancing around, all those kind of things. And I think, yes, there have been some players that have, it's not that they've really spoken out against Locke. It's just that they've spoken so highly of Watson.
Yeah.
I think people have overblown that because, I mean, any player out there is going to be able to say that they only have to watch a couple games of Watson and say, dude, that guy's a dude. And to bring that kind of guy into any kind of organization out there, any team other than maybe the Chiefs, maybe the Bucks if they bring back Brady, there's very few teams that wouldn't be all of a sudden going, this is it. This is our guy.
If there was a fantasy redraft and every player was available, Mahomes would go 1, Watson would go 2, unless a team was like, I'm going in right now, and they wanted Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. But like, you're talking a 25-year-old versus a 37 or a 43-year-old. Watson's the second most valuable asset in football. It just is what it is. We got Duke coming in again. Duke, good to see you. Also, that spider in your hand is giving me the willies. I don't typically hate spiders, but I'm not sure about that one. I had one this summer. Oh my gosh, I was taking the dog out at like 3 a.m. I thought I saw what I thought was a mouse run across the pavement, and it was a wolf spider. And I put my light on it, and it had covered in babies.
Yep.
Oh my God. I had took the dog and ran. I was like, I got to protect the dog. Anyway, Duke, I always talk about the dog when Duke's around too, because he loves that. I personally think Locke has had a light fired under his rear end, or a fire lighted under his rear end. With all this Watson talk, Locke will be aight. Patience is a virtue. Patience is a virtue, but it's in limited supply in the NFL because teams turn over quickly. And if you aren't getting it done, there's no reason to wait around. I mean, the game changed the moment the Arizona Cardinals took Murray after Josh Rosen in the top 10 the year before. Yep. If your quarterback isn't getting it done, you're going to look at the options. It's just simple as that. And obviously there are tales where it works out, Josh Allen, for example, but I mean, there are also examples where it didn't work out. I mean, the Broncos not doing that much work on quarterback in 2018 because they had Paxton Lynch and like, oh, look at Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. It would have been really nice if they were interested in quarterback in that class instead of waiting on dead weight Paxton Lynch. So, you got to be careful. Got to be careful.
That's why we'll keep saying it's a risk no matter which direction the Broncos go at quarterback. There's one that I see that is for sure that you have your dude in Deshaun Watson. Yes, it's going to cost the most of any of your decisions of any of the players out there. I'm not even going to say it. Dak, he's going to the Cowboys. Let's not even talk about that one. I know there's rumors of Wilson. That's not going to happen from the Seahawks.
I would pay good money for Dak. He's not as good as Watson, but you're talking about a top 10 quarterback. And with this team, that's the thing about the weapons right now. It's a young team, but if you could find a veteran quarterback and set them in here, which is a reason I was definitely interested in Stafford, the offense ready to be top 10 right now. They're just only going to go as far as the quarterback because it's football and that's what it's about. But still, Carl, this is directed at me, but let's get this one real quick, Buana. I'm sorry. I'm trying to help you out here too. Buana gave me the finger, everyone. I'm just kidding. He's so nice. I love Buana. So I got to give him a hard time though. There was the finger. Buana. Everybody, hashtag Buana's the best. Todd coming in here. Nick, who would be your top 3 choices at inside linebacker or off-ball linebacker in the draft? Is there a tweeter you want? I think he probably meant tweener. But we'll go with tweeter as well. Top 3 choices for the Broncos at inside linebacker in this draft. The number 1 linebacker in this draft on my board is Micah Parsons. However, I am scared to death of him given Bucky Brooks, who is a family friend of him and known him for a while, came out and said, I don't know about Micah Parsons if it ever clicks for him because of maturity. Big red flag, especially for a heady position, leadership position like off-ball linebacker. And then there's also, I don't want to go down too far down this rabbit hole, but there are some horrifying allegations surrounding Micah Parsons at Penn State involving hazing at its best level and sexual harassment / I guess rape at its worst. So it's bad. It's bad. And we'll see, what comes of it. These teams being a NFL draft scout, half your job is evaluating talent. The other half is being a private investigator. Like these guys are going and talking to these guys' middle school teachers. Like literally, that's what they're doing to try to dig that deep to find out what these guys are about. But I do really like Parsons' talent, separating the off-field stuff. And then after that, I probably would go, if we're going top three, not my favorites, but top three, then I would probably go Zaven Collins from Tulsa, who I don't love. I feel like a lot of people are like talking him just because they really want linebacker, but I don't think he's that level of athlete that you want. I think he's pretty close to what you already have in Alexander Johnson, to be completely honest. I don't think there's that different of players. And then I also like Nick Bolton. I think he's a solid player. I think there's not the best floor. I'd rather go day two linebacker. I think that's where the value is. A guy like Cam McGrone, a guy like Baron Browning, a guy like Pete Warner, a guy like Jabril Cox. I think the day two linebacker is what I'm far more interested in for the Broncos. What about you, Carl? I went down a rabbit hole there, but do you have any thoughts? Anybody I didn't say that you are a big fan of?
Jamin Davis. Did you say him?
Oh, no, from Kentucky?
Yep.
Yeah, Kentucky's got a couple defenders that people are starting to get up on. I did not watch Joseph, their cornerback, until recently because Daniel Jeremiah was hyping him up. You have my attention. That's a talented guy.
Yep. So that would be a guy that I would definitely look at there in the middle round, late, maybe 4th, 5th round if he's still there. Trying to think who else.
I like Hillard a lot also from Ohio State. But that's just because he's a special teams dynamo. And if you're taking a guy day 3 and they can come in and be a special teams ace, all about it, especially with what the Broncos have had at special teams the last few years.
Right. And this is part of why I know there's a lot of people out there that want Micah Parsons at 9. This is one of the deeper off-ball linebacker classes out there. And I'm not sure that Parsons is the linebacker the Broncos need. That's my main thing, because he's just not a coverage guy. It's kind of like this past year or this past Super Bowl. There's a lot of people going, Devin White, look at this guy. He's just flying around. He's doing everything. Well, Devin White's allowed to do that because they have this other guy named Levante David, who's their coverage guy, who's dropping back, who's able to play man coverage.
He's also the signal caller. Like he's the check guy.
Right.
Here's a question. We should definitely talk about this. We'll get to it at some point. You have to get rid of Von Miller and his contract to be able to do this. Levante David, though, if the Bucks can't sign him, that's probably the one Nebraska guy I'm in on. And I've always been in on. I've always been a Levante David fan. He's been one of the most underrated linebackers in football for a while. I mean, I think he's been right up there with Kuechly and Brandon Wagner. And, just never got that limelight. So we got Bwana giving us the let's keep it going here. So base case coming in here. Other than Josh Allen, how many instances have we seen bottom 5 quarterbacks turn into franchise level quarterbacks after a year or two? The only guys I can think of recently that this really worked out for, one of them being Josh Allen, the other one being Ryan Tannehill. But Ryan Tannehill was an interesting one. First off, you can't really separate him from what they're doing with Derrick Henry. That's always going to be the question with Ryan Tannehill is how much is it the teams stacking the box and really paying attention to the running back position, and also just the play action from him. Also, Ryan Tannehill, he was taken first round, but it was always going to take time for him. He literally played wide receiver the year before playing quarterback and then going in the first round. Also, he was injured at Miami. He was showing a lot of flashes, and it was rather up and down. I mean, Adam Gase, again, also, speaking of base case, that's another one as well. So Josh Allen and Ryan Tannehill are literally the only ones I can think of over the last decade that have had that big level of turnaround where they've been bottom 5 to 10 quarterbacks and then turned into top 10.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone else.
Yeah, I guess you
maybe
could
in the
say,
comment section, guys, if you can think of anybody else.
Right. I'd say Carson Wentz made a big jump from rookie year to second year.
Yeah, but you expect that. We're talking like year 2 in the league, especially with how many starts Locke has had in college already.
Right.
I can't think of any, especially being that low. Rich Gannon's another one, but we were playing a different game of football back in 2002. The game's changed. So I don't know. It's interesting. We got Victor coming in here. If you guys think of anyone else, please in the comments, we'll talk it out. Hey boys, hope you all doing well. Should we trade Cortland Sutton while he still has value because he isn't getting any younger? Cortland Sutton's still relatively young. He's coming up on that second contract. And at this point, coming off that injury, especially as significant it was, I think he would be selling low. Yeah. So he's worth way more on the team than he is the trade assets he'd bring back.
Right.
So I would not be interested. Your head's in the right place, Victor. I think you're interesting question. You're selling low.
Right. I would say if you're looking at a wide receiver that you could possibly trade, Tim Patrick is your guy.
Can you trade restricted free agent guys? Like obviously after their contract has been, I know there's some weird language there that I don't know the specifics.
Yes. So here's how it works. You have to have the player agree that they will sign their tag, whatever, their
The tender.
Yeah, their tender. There you go. And so once they do that, so you sign that and then they get traded to the team is essentially what happens. I think who was it? The Patriots and the Dolphins were the last team to really do that with Wes Welker.
Third round pick.
I think so. Yeah. I think I think they traded a second or third round pick.
You're right, because they traded less for Randy Moss than Wes Welker that same offseason. Yeah. I remember that being like, oh, that's weird. Yeah. But Randy Moss had some issues in Oakland, and as do many players, it seems. So good question, Victor. I don't think it's probably the direction I would go, given Sutton's injury, but still interesting. We got Tyler Randall coming in here. Really appreciate you coming in, Tyler. Thanks for joining us tonight. Keep up the great work, fellas. Well, I like even better, Tyler. But we all know the train wreck that is PFF doesn't know what they're doing anymore. Hashtag sad, hashtag DB4L, hashtag state of being, hashtag freezing in Oklahoma. Well, Tyler, I think people who put, everything on Pro Football Focus and take it as gospel are probably being led by false prophets, but it is an interesting tool and it's part of the narrative and it's information. And we would be remiss not to take in all information, especially ones that are as validated's the wrong word. It's not just some random person out there putting out a draft guide saying like the best quarterback in this draft is Kyle Trask. I'm 17 and I want to make a name for myself. That maybe not bad information. But Pro Football Focus, it's not everything, but it's definitely a piece of the puzzle.
Right. I like some of their advanced stats that they have.
Yeah.
I don't like their grades. Their grades are a little, and I guess some of that depends even on the position.
Yeah. Their quarterback grades, which I thought was really interesting. There was an analysis piece on them where actually their quarterback grades have been one of the most predictive year to year as far as how a quarterback's going to continue to play.
Right.
Even more so than EPA over completion percentage over expected.
Right. I'd say their offensive and defensive line grades are a little bit just because there's so many different things that those players are asked to do.
Yeah.
And so even though they're not making the play like a nose tackle, like Pecco a couple years ago, they were really low on his grade and he was taking on double, triple teams, allowing all the other guys to go make plays. And so like, what was that linebacker's name? Todd Davis actually had a pretty darn good grade from them. But Pecco was doing a lot of work in front of him to really make his job a lot easier.
That's football, though, right? When you're trying to isolate the variable and stuff like that. Then I think it was somebody in Big Data Football just won a big award talking about how flawed the process is for their coverage grades because of how they are evaluating that and how like pass deflects and whatnot are really not that valuable and they should be looking at these other variables. So, it's all a learning process. Football is such a weird game, small sample size, 22 guys executing different plays at a time. It's not like baseball where you have all these different one-on-one matchups and a huge sample size where you can get a lot of good statistical data. But so it's out there and teams are using it and the innovators will continue to be better than everybody else. So that's just how it is. Best teams in football at advanced analytics have been the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Patriots, and those teams have continued to be pretty darn good. We got Broncos fan 13 coming in here, and Buana put it up here, so I know that this is near and dear to his heart. Do you guys like McTelvin Najim? I do like McTelvin Najim. He's a guy, there's issues with him.
Yeah.
Needs to get stronger. Needs to play with better leverage. He's kind of a guy who pops up out of his stance right now. He's not strong enough to just take that, and he's washed out of the play. So always needed time. 95th overall pick. Hopefully we'll see him more this year. They're going to depend on him more this year.
He has consistently underperformed throughout his career. He was a 5-star recruit, one of the top players coming out of high school. Went to Arkansas, which a lot of people question that kind of decision. He had a lot of flash plays in college, but it just was not consistent. Yeah. That's why he didn't go as high in the draft. But if the guy ever had it all clicked together, he could turn into something special. He's got the tools. I mean, he's kind of like what we're saying with Drew Lock. He's got the tools. Can he have it all clicked together to actually make it work?
Yeah, this year will be really telling for him. I don't think that, you have who knows what's going to happen with Shelby Harris, I think we can close the book on Jarrell Casey. I'd be pretty shocked if he was back. And DeMarcus Walker, an unknown. We will see. I mean, he actually played much better this year than he had in previous years, but he's not Draymond Jones or Shelby Harris out there who were playing pretty darn good football. But we'll see. I mean, he's a guy next year that you are really hoping can provide something, but I put him in the same pool as like Justin Strnad, maybe even Alberto Cuebanam, those kind of early day 3, late day 2 kind of guys that it's always been a 2 to 3 year plan to see them on the field and really producing. And if you can get anything from them year 2, awesome.
Yep.
So it's a development position too. It's taking a defense, unless you have a guy, this is true for the trenches, unless you have a guy taken in the top 20, odds are they're going to be kind of sporadic year 1, even year 2. I mean, we saw that with Draymond Jones too, who's now turned into one of the better interior pass rushers. Honestly, in football, I'm really excited about him. So don't want to get too hyped about Draymond, but I love me some Draymond. Yep. So yeah, Buana, got anything else down the track? No, he's giving me the heads up. So Carl, your last thoughts? Any last thoughts on Trey Lance and that Mike Renner mock for the Broncos? Trading up to 7, going to get a quarterback. Is that something you would do?
Well, I mean, if you're trading up to 7, you're probably not giving up a whole lot. Maybe an extra third for this year or next year, something like that. That's not too bad. If that's all it takes, he's worth the risk. I'm sure right now that there were a lot of people who were questioning the Chiefs when they gave up that extra first round to go get Patrick Mahomes. Now nobody
talking about it. We were saying that the whole draft is trash. Won't matter if Patrick Mahomes hits. And I did not foresee him hitting like this, but that's just the quarterback position.
Right. And so at that point, with a couple extra thirds, that's worth it. If they're trying to get into the top 5 and have to give up an extra first round pick for Trey Lance, that's where I have a little bit more issue with just that player. Just like I said, he's got such a high ceiling and low floor. It scares me. He's one of the scarier players in the draft. Him and Micah Parsons, for different reasons, are pretty scary players. To me, if I'm trading up in top 5, I'd rather go get Zach Wilson or Justin Fields, just because I trust their floor a lot better.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Glenn coming in. Great show, guys. Really do appreciate that, Glenn. Always appreciate talking with you on Twitter and Facebook as well. I think we're Facebook friends. Jay coming in here. Nick, what was your undergraduate degree in? I was biochemistry, biology, and pre-medicine with a music performance minor, rocking out on the violin. I was busy in college, guys. I was really busy. And I was in a frat. So it was a good time still, too. But guys, we really do appreciate you. We probably got to get on out of here. First, want to shout out to Buana Beast. Guys, make sure you're following him on Twitter. He is, we wouldn't be able to do this show without him. Follow him on Twitter at JohnKMHH. That's JONKAYMHH. He's the man. We really do appreciate him. And he definitely deserves more Twitter followers than he has right now. So if you haven't followed him yet and you're on Twitter, go ahead and do it. Also, guys, you can find Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler MHH and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Like we said, we're both very active on Twitter. Man, we love it. If anybody can talk here, and I know somebody actually called me a Drew hater today, which, it's upsetting because I do think I try to toe that line, but try not to be too negative. And also we got Broncos fan 13 saying a lot of negativity in the world today. Everyone remember to stay positive and test negative, as this epidemiologist likes to say. So do appreciate that. Also, guys, make sure you head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all of our written content and the MHH community. I'm going to have an article touching on the topic today as well. If Chad hasn't already released it, it should be out there pretty soon. Guys, head on over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. I didn't get a chance to check it today before the show, but I will do so before next Tuesday's show. And if there is a new one out there that we like, we will show you on the screen, give you a shout out. We really do appreciate those comments and especially those 5-star ratings as well. Guys, also YouTube specifically, like, subscribe, and share. Click those thumbs up if you are watching on Facebook. Doing either of those things is probably the biggest thing you can do to help these shows and can really help us continue to bring you these Denver Bronco deep dives. So if you haven't done that yet, you like what you're hearing, you like the other shows, please do so. Like, subscribe, share, laugh, react, heart react, thumbs up, react on Facebook. That's just such a difference maker for us, and we would really appreciate it. Guys, follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at BTB Football Pod. Carl, you got any plans the rest of the day? Anything fun going on? I'm also really happy you found your hat again. I was getting sad there for a little bit. We didn't have the beautiful Building the Broncos hats going on.
Yeah, my daughter stuck my hat in something. I don't remember. My wife was cleaning out some bags, and she's like, "Oh, hey, here's your hat." And I'm like, "Oh, you've been missing that forever." And you know where I found it today?
Where?
Behind the toilet.
Better than in the toilet, boys. That's all.
It's true. I will take that. But my daughter, I don't know what her obsession with this hat is. Maybe I just need to leave it in my office and hide it.
I always keep it here because it's white. If I wore this outside hiking, it would be destroyed immediately because I can't help but bump into tree branches.
Yeah, I understand. Maybe that's what I need to do. But yeah, it's good to be wearing the hat again, and always good to do the show with you, man. It's always such a fast hour.
I know, right? Sometimes we'll have to go a little over. We have a few times. We got Casey Martin coming in here too. Casey, we do appreciate it. I really think that Nick and Carl have the best of these MHH shows. Thank you so much, Casey. I agree. No, I do like. I can't say it that I like this one more than Mile High Insiders with Luke. But Carl and I do go back, and we have a lot of history, and I have a hell of a lot of fun coming on here and just talking football with you guys and with Carl and with Buana. So we appreciate you guys. Please stay safe. Also, our newest writer, shout out to Kenneth Booker, our newest member of Mile High Huddle. Congrats. Always been a great contributor in the chat here, and he's written some good content so far. So make sure you guys find him on Twitter as well. And I don't have his @ right in front of me, but find it. And I'll probably tweet something out now after saying that. So find me. And also, Kenneth Booker, good point here. Rest in peace to Marty Schottenheimer. Also, rest in peace to Perez, the longtime writer for the Kansas City Chiefs. And don't know what happened. He was 37 years old and is passed away yesterday. So very bummer there. I remember talking with him at the Combine quite a few times, sitting at some podiums and kind of just waiting for players. The Combine's such a weird thing, Carl. You got to go sometime. It's bizarre. But talking with him a few times and crazy. He's gone. We've lost way too many this week in the sports writing world. So, everyone take care, stay safe. Love y'all, and go Broncos.